If you are a bookkeeper or you're interested in being one, there's a lot of financial jobs and kind of terms that you may be hearing that are kind of confusing. So today I'm going to break down the differences, the schooling needed, and the salaries for each of these positions. So bookkeeper, accountant, tax preparer, CPA, CFO, and controller. So starting out with bookkeeper, because this is what my channel is all about, I'm not going to go into super detail in this video. I'd say being a bookkeeper is probably like the starting level of all of these. So to be a bookkeeper, you don't need a specific degree, you don't need a certification, you just need to know the bookkeeping software that you're going to be working in. I have a video all about bookkeeper tasks. It's called What Does a Bookkeeper Do? The thumbnail looks like this, and I'll link it down below for you. And definitely consider subscribing to my channel if you want to learn more about bookkeeping. I'm Morgan and my website is FinePoints.biz, and I have a free masterclass and checklist you can also check out. And I promised you I would talk about salaries for all of these. Of course, salaries are very variable, and it depends on who you ask, it depends on what experience you have, etc. So take these with a grain of salt. I will leave links in the description box for where I found this information, but also let me know in the comments if you are one of these and you make a different amount. I'd be curious to know. But as a bookkeeper, kind of like the starting salary that is published is about $33,000 a year. You can also work hourly. I recommend that you charge like $50 to $60 per hour, and then you can get as many clients as you want, and you can really charge as much as you want as well. So this lists the high end of the spectrum around a little over $50,000 a year. I would argue that it can go even higher than that. All right, next up is a tax preparer. So this doesn't require an advanced degree, but you do need a high school diploma, and then you need to get certified as a tax preparer. So I do actually have a video all about this that you can check out. I have a two-part series. The first is like, what does a tax preparer do exactly? And then the second one, I kind of followed along with my friend who became a tax preparer. I talked about how much that cost, like all about what her training process was. So the thumbnail looks like this. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think it took her like a few months, maybe like 4 months, to get the certification and do it all. And then the salaries are listed starting like around $18 an hour, so even a little lower than a bookkeeper, going up to the high 20s per hour. And for this, you do need to take a specific course and pass an exam to be a tax preparer. All right, and then kind of going up this ladder is a CPA. So as a CPA, that stands for a Certified Public Accountant. You need to have a college degree, and then you need to pass a series of CPA exams. So CPAs can often prepare taxes, they can do audit work, they are trained to analyze financial data, so they just have kind of a deeper knowledge of that bookkeeping, of that finances, and oftentimes companies will hire them for some of that financial planning. Like I mentioned, you need to have schooling, and then you need to pass the exam. Many states require 150 hours of schooling before you can pass that exam, because they really want to make sure you know your stuff. Then there's often some like work experience required, as well as continuing education to keep up those skills. And the salary information I found for this is around $70,000 per year. And of course, that can change based on your experience and your exact schooling. All right, next on my list is accountant. So this is the one that really tripped me up for many years, because I often would use the terms accountant and CPA interchangeably, because as a bookkeeper, most of my clients had accountants who were doing their taxes, CPAs who were doing their taxes, and we would just call them the accountant. But I have come to learn that this is really more of a broad or vague term. So I could call myself an accountant. There is a school of thought within like bookkeeper circles that we shouldn't be called bookkeepers because we're providing a really valuable good service. We're not just, inputting all this data, which is kind of like the stereotype of bookkeepers. So I know many like people like me who I would say are bookkeepers, and they call themselves accountants, which is completely within their right. I personally haven't felt comfortable doing that just because I feel that the word bookkeeper better describes me and what I'm doing. So let me know in the comments if you have opinions about that. I'm really curious to see what you guys think. So this one website that I was looking at, it listed like what are all the different types of accountants, and under it listed a lot of these. So it said types of accountants could be auditors, forensic accountants, which they like prosecute like white collar crimes or like tax evasion and stuff, tax accountants, controllers, bookkeepers, CPAs. They're saying all of these things that I'm talking about is kind of under the bucket of accounting. So I can definitely see why this is confusing, but I just want you guys to know that accounting is a more broad term. So like the other ones I've talked about so far, accountants prepare and they analyze and they verify all the financial information for a business. They can also identify best best practices and kind of strategize solutions for that type of thing. Most of the time, in order to be called accountant, you should have a 4-year degree in accounting, like a bachelor's degree. And the salary for this ranges from $57,000 per year to almost $100,000 per year. And again, I think that could be higher as well, especially depending where you live and what your experience is. All right, next up is a controller. I actually worked really closely with a controller for one of my clients. I would go into the office every week. We would sit in the same office and she was kind of like my boss. But even then, I never really understood exactly what was a controller, how is it different from all these other ones. So the definition that I found is that a controller reviews the books basically and is able to make adjusting entries, and that helps the business have an even more accurate financial picture. So this is very accurate to what that controller, the one I worked with, did. So I was the bookkeeper, so I would be entering all the stuff, categorizing all the transactions. And then at month end was really her time that she would come, she would check everything, she would make those adjusting entries. I don't even know everything that she was doing. I think some of it had to do with loans and depreciation. She would do some reporting on how close we were to our budget because it was for a nonprofit. So every month we had to make sure we were hitting the budget and send reports to different people. So I think the controller is a CPA that has even more experience. So they have a little bit more know-how, a little more knowledge of a financial picture of a business. So they do need that bachelor's degree in accounting. They need to pass the CPA exam. And my research found that they need about 7 years of experience in the accounting field as working as a CPA to get that knowledge under their belt. All right, you can kind of see my salaries are basically going in order. This is the second to highest tier that I'm talking about today. So the salaries start at $162 per year and then can go up to the mid 300s. And then we have come to a CFO, a Chief Financial Officer. So this is someone very high up in a mid-sized company to a large company. They are able to afford to hire someone to oversee all of their finances. And the key here is really strategy. They are going to be the driver of the financial strategy in a business, and they are going to be very heavy on advisory duties. They're going to look at the past performance of the business, how they're doing currently, and goals for the future. And this is often considered kind of like they're probably managing other CPAs within the business. So pretty much their main goal is to make the business profitable. And a CFO will have everything that a CPA has. And additionally, an MBA, so a master's in business, is usually required as well. And this will require about 10 years work experience in the field. And their annual salary is going to start in the 200s, and then it can exceed $500,000 per year. And I'm not really getting into financial advisors in this video, but that could be another category as well. Oftentimes, this is a consultant who is good at investments. So they are likely able to advise on tax strategy and investment strategy. I have a couple other videos on this topic. I have one about how, as a bookkeeper, I work with a CPA, how I work with accountants, I call it. So I talk about the different roles and how I interact with them. And then I also have an older version of this video called Bookkeeper versus Accountant, where I really do break down some of the roles in a little bit more detail. So you can check those out if you're interested. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for another video every week. Take care.